Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode must be 273 for April 25th, 2018. My name is Russell Frost, and if my voice sounds like crap, it's because my voice sounds like crap. My apologies for taking a week off last week. I was lucky enough to acquire a really nasty case of food poisoning in a 4-star hotel.
Yeah. It was a 4-star food poisoning.
Are you going to give a shout out to that hotel?
So yeah, they poisoned me while I overlooked the beautiful Pacific Ocean on their expansive deck.
It's so good they wanted you to experience it twice.
Yeah, I experienced it many times actually. And I have a horrible cold. So here I am. I'm going to be a little grumbly, but what's the difference, right? Nobody.
Yeah, what's new?
Yeah, exactly.
Grumbly, it's hard to tell the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's introduce everybody and get this show on the road. My wingman, the well-dressed man there who's trying to suppress a yawn somewhat successfully, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Yeah, sorry, guys. It's been a long day, and, just doing the show with you guys just wakes me up every Wednesday evening. I don't know. I'm digging just as fast as I can here.
Yeah, that was good. Sorry. I mean, I didn't really have to call you out on it. I was kind of being a jerk. I'm sorry.
Well, it is 1 a.m. somewhere.
That's true. 1 a.m. in Greenwich, Greenwich right now.
So the man with the salient time remark is our man in the Pacific Northwest, Mr. Patrick Connor.
Hello from Oregon. And tonight, it's not a beer. It's just a plain old New York seltzer.
Aww.
Oh, yep.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I have a whole bunch of new beers in the fridge, but I'm way too sick to be drinking beer. So
call it cough syrup. There you go. It's medicinal beer.
Is that, Evan, does that work?
Sure.
Yeah.
You can pass out and forget you're sick.
I see. You don't care as much, I think is what.
Any advice Dr. Fusco offers on this show should not be construed as medical advice. And speaking of Dr. Evan Fusco, Dr. Evan Fusco.
Yeah, I just give beer advice. I am drinking tonight a Fusco homebrew session IPA.
Nice.
Wow.
It will help suppress your cough, though.
Well, call him Dr. Beer.
Doctor
and they even supply a collectible glass with it. That's pretty
Yes.
Yeah.
The Fusco Brewing Company glass. I had no idea you'd gone corporate. You sellout.
Hey, we finally got a sponsor.
Fusco Brewing.
I'll contribute 50% of my profits to the show.
Yeah. Exactly.
Except they're negative because he drinks it all.
Yes, and then buy more equipment to make more.
Yeah, we all have to send Evan money.
Right.
Evan's going to turn his house into a brewery, which, now that I think about it, maybe not a bad idea.
I kind of like where you're going with that.
There's worse things it could be.
You've met my wife. You know that's not.
Good point. Well, and our final panelist this week is our man who, from Boulder, Colorado. He founded Boulder Hybrids in Boulder. And did I say Boulder one more time?
Where's
Mr.
Boulder?
Paul Guzik.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be back. Rock and roll. It's good. Oh, my beer sponsor. I'm drinking a lovely cream ale. I might have had this before from Finkel and Garf's just up the road here in Boulder, Colorado.
Wow.
That sounds wonderful.
And I like their little it's a big wheel thing there.
Yeah.
Is it
supposed to drink
sweet?
this while driving a big wheel?
I think so.
Yeah.
The one time we
beer, is it?
driving.
It's not too sweet.
Not too
Got
sweet.
orange peel in it,
Yeah. I kind of like
so
that.
it says.
All right.
That could be really great or not.
It sounds good. Yeah. Well, keeping along what drives this tradition alive, I went to the Nikkei Asian Review for our first story. Interesting story. And I'm going to apologize. I should know this by now, and I should have done it before the show. But the chairman of Nissan Renault Mitsubishi, anyone know his last name? Yeah.
Mitsubishi.
Yeah. I believe. Yeah, that's the new alliance, my friend. Come on, you got to keep up.
Wow.
Yeah. Carlos Ghosn, I believe.
Oh.
Good old Carlos.
Carlos Ghosn.
Been a strong EV advocate, although maybe not super consistent, but was recently quoted as saying that the range issue has been solved.
Yay! Woo! The only one.
Hey, good job, Carlos.
As long as you guarantee more than 300 kilometers, Ghosn said, it doesn't matter.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Which
that's one way to solve the problem.
He apparently doesn't live in Southwest Missouri.
Yeah.
For many parts of the world and for many use cases, that's true.
Right.
Solved 100%? No, but you don't need to solve it for 100%. You just need to solve it for a significant portion of the market. So I think there's a place for that range. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh, I agree.
I don't even drive kilometers. I don't even drive a single kilometer.
That's 300 more than you need because you don't drive any of those.
You have 300 of them, and you would never use them, so you would always have range.
I would always have 300
Don't even
kilometers.
to Greenwich.
Yeah.
So Ghosn's follow-up point here is that, okay, now that we've solved the range problem, what's the other problem? And his point here is cost. The Nissan Leaf, for instance, which is a product he produces, he says it's too expensive to sell in Japan. So the challenge that manufacturers face now is
Wait, did he say
the
Japan
cost.
or China?
I'm sorry, China.
I thought it's just
Excuse me.
They got money.
Yeah.
Rear ends there.
Sorry, that's my fevered eyes that aren't connecting things. So, which I think, again, I may not agree with him 100%, but I think it's an excellent point. I think it's nice to hear somebody not talk about how if a car doesn't have 500 miles range, it's going to be horrible. And yeah, the challenge is give me a $20,000 EV.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that's the market that Leaf is always, they've been looking at. They could have made a $100,000 car. They wouldn't have sold very many. They've been trying to go for the affordable electric vehicle from the beginning. Has been Nissan Renault's angle. So that's and he's right. The prices that Leafs are selling for today is not going to work in China. So they've got to do something a little better. And I'm glad they're thinking about it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Patrick. Patrick, we agree.
Yeah, that's the first, isn't it?
That's it.
We got to cancel the show. Thank you. Good night.
Got nothing else to talk about.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Well, maybe we can argue on this next one. I don't know. There was an interesting story from the North Yorkshire Police .police.uk, and I just want to share this photo with you because the photo.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you are. I was about to pull it up.
Yeah, it's just delightful. Hey, what's
Awesome.
how can you drive a baby blue Range Rover
What?
and
You got
do that?
handed an 8-month sentence?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to freedom
wait.
of the finger?
Well, that's not the reason
that's
he
not
got it.
Why,
That's not the reason.
Timothy Hill, a 67-year-old, rather expressive gentleman in the UK, was recently sentenced to an 8-month prison sentence, not because he flipped off the safety camera every time he drove by it.
Yeah, every time.
Everybody
Every
needs a hobby.
On all 3 occasions, he was photographed gesturing at the camera with his middle finger. Police detected a laser jammer on his Range Rover, and that's what landed him in the poke.
But wait, what I like is the line. Go back up just a little.
Yeah, there's a very good line there.
Yes, he was banned from driving for a year for perverting the course of justice.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yes. So the thing is, I mean, what I think is funny is, not only that he drives through and flips them off, and he has a radar jammer, but they called him on it, and they said, "Turn in your car. We want to inspect it. We think you have a speed gun jamming device." He's very elusive, right? He's like, "Well, I don't really know where it is. I can't really get to it right now." And and then he goes out and tries to destroy the jamming device, and the judge says, essentially, you tried to obstruct justice, although it's
pervert justice.
Perverted.
Obstruct. Say the right word.
I know.
Come on.
Well, no, I know. But I was dumbing it down for the American audience. That's what I was saying. You obstructed
our
justice.
audience is in Greenwich. Remember that.
Yorkshire
Staying up till 1 a.m. for
known
this.
as perverting the course of justice. Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
It's awesome.
Really? So I want to talk about this one for just a second, because this is something that's always been near and dear to my heart. And that is people who think traffic laws don't apply to them. And here's a guy who clearly, as he's driving by, and he's got his little laser jammer in there, so he can go as fast as he wants. And I think that's a problem that we haven't bothered with. We talk about drinking and driving. That kills people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but where do you draw the line? Like, I mean, okay, so like my mom probably tries to obey every traffic law and never speeds and comes to complete stops at every light and doesn't text while she's driving. But the rest of us all think the laws don't apply to us in some way, shape, or form. We all accelerate a little too fast. We all exceed the speed limit by 5 or 10 miles per hour. We all, those are all made for that lowest common denominator. That's not me, because I'm a little better than that lowest common denominator. So, I don't worry. Where do you draw the line?
But there are states in the United States where jamming devices are illegal.
Yes.
And he clearly was in an area, part of the country where jamming devices were illegal. And he was called out on it, and he tried to destroy it before they could find it.
Yes. I guess from my perspective, the conversation, and I get Evan's point, like, where do you draw the line? And Evan tends to be, how shall we say, our libertarian sort of influence.
What?
That's the first time I've ever been called that.
Is it?
I think George Carlin said it best. George Carlin said, if you ever notice that anybody driving slower than you is an idiot, and anyone going faster than you is a maniac.
He's a maniac. Absolutely.
Oh, idiots and maniacs out there.
Just right.
I think it was Carlin who also suggested every car should have a dart gun, and if someone on the road did something stupid, you shot a dart in the back of their car, and then when you collected like 6 darts, the police pulled you over and wrote you a ticket for being an asshole.
Nice.
Which, you know what? There's some I like that there. I guess what I want to say is, we've been talking about AV cars and how that's going to affect safety. We talk about drinking and driving. And yet it's okay to do 80 in the 55. If you live in California, as I do now, the speeds on the highway here are pretty fearsome. 80, 85 miles an hour is the cruising speed.
And they are here around Chicago as well. And it turns out this is very topical. We were talking about this at lunch today at work, and talking about people drive crazy on roads where they shouldn't be. And someone mentioned the Tri-State Tollway that goes right past and through Chicago. But the difference is on the huge interstates around Chicago, especially during rush hour, speed limit 55, but most people are doing 70 to 75. But the difference is everyone's moving as a group. It's the flock mentality thing. Everyone's speeding, but everyone's staying in their lane. But the police will pull you over if you exceedingly change lanes, and they'll ticket you for illegal lane usage. That law they will uphold because you're now creating a hazard for the other people around you.
Oh, and if they're pulling you over, they might as well give you a speeding ticket too while they're at it.
Yeah, but then they realize the stupidity in giving you a speeding ticket when everyone else. So I don't know, but I know that's what they do. They
everybody
don't
else
target
is doing
people
it. It's
for
not
doing 80 in a 55. They target the people who are weaving in and out of traffic.
But yeah, and I think that's a good answer to the question earlier of where do you draw the line? You draw the line at reckless endangerment. Absolutely draw. That's a hard, bright line.
Yeah, and that's a total judgment call.
Right.
Yeah,
it is.
Right. And honestly, do we even bother enforcing that? Yeah, you see police pulling people over once in a while, but we don't really put any effort into enforcing speed laws.
Not as much as I wish they would some days. Maybe that's just I'm old now, and I wish the young whippersnappers would be pulled over.
If the speed limits aren't practical, we should change them to what is practical, and then we should enforce them. That's my opinion.
55, like the 80s.
Sammy Hagar wrote a song about it.
Yeah. I'm not here to advocate for a certain speed or anything like that, but I do think it's a conversation we don't bother to have because it's like everybody speeds.
Yeah.
This guy, like he got 8 months because he was an asshole. And he's in the UK where apparently they sentence people to things if you screw around. Let's move on to the next story because I feel like I was beating that dead horse. Tony, I think you have a story about some really cool mass transit.
Yes. So I didn't realize we were going to that one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tony.
No. Wait, what is it? No, there's Ghosn, and there's a guy flipping me off. And here is a picture that I'm going to share with everyone because this is about electric buses, and it's which one? This one. Boom. There it is. Boom, baby. Okay.
BYD.
So, it turns out that nearly 90,000 electric buses were sold in China in 2017. 90,000 electric buses.
That's a shit ton of buses.
That is. And it was only, according to another article I read, it was only about 10 years ago that BYD presented the idea of electric buses at a mass transportation convention. It was almost laughed out of the venue. And they kept chugging along and chugging along. But the crazy part, here's the truly surprising part. BYD wasn't even the biggest seller. It was the biggest manufacturer. It was Yutong, spelled Yutong. They sold 24,000 buses, and BYD was in second place with about half that many at 12,777.
Wow.
So we've mentioned BYD a few times here on the show about being a huge mover and shaker with the batteries and electric cars and electric buses. It turns out they're being eclipsed by this company called Yutong. And even more so, one of the things I wanted to bring this up because we talk about greening the grid, greening our own ride, using mass transportation, and greening mass transportation. Here's a country that's proving it, and they're doing it. And meanwhile, the Environmental Protection Agency is trying to, loosen regulations on manufacturers so they can pollute more and lower their gas mileage. I mean, we're going in the exact opposite direction. China, I think, is doing it right, putting the money where the mouth is. They're manufacturing and putting these buses on the roads. And I think we need to be more like that.
I like that idea.
It's interesting that there appear to be quite a few manufacturers too. So almost half. So the three, Yutong, BYD, and Zongtong accounted for about half of that 90,000. The other half was, so 43,000 was other manufacturers. And so if Zongtong produced 8,000, these must have each produced fewer than that. So there has to be at least 5 more minimum, and probably more than that. So it's interesting that there's so many different companies that are part of this process. That's really interesting. Is it, acceptance could mean some pretty rapid development of those companies.
You would hope, right? I mean, obviously China's aggressively developing this technology because they have aggressive problems.
Yeah, they do.
And a lot of people.
But
move around.
Nonetheless, it's not as though our problems are non-existent, and we're a tiny little country. We could certainly be doing this too, but we're not.
Hey, my local public transit company, TriMet, they just announced that they have 5 electric buses and they're putting them on the road this year. It's a start.
Nice. Yeah.
Hey,
5,000 more.
When you say
89,995
powered or trolley line powered?
They are battery. They're Proterra buses, so they're plug-in electric buses.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we certainly, here in the United States, and I know, of course, European countries, certainly have metropolitan areas with public buses. And dude, we need to get on this. That's my big thing. That's my soapbox.
There you go.
Tony for office.
Go,
Yes.
Tony.
Vote me king of the world, and I will do this, and I will enforce a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and I will make sure that no one drives more than 190 miles a day.
No one's going to vote for you.
You'd be the Game of Thrones. You just lost.
You either win or you die.
I think it's great, but I don't know. Well, Patrick has a somewhat related story.
Yeah, so that last one was about air quality, and so the thread here is the same air quality. In London, they had their marathon, and as part of the marathon, they shut down a lot of roads, and they had been measuring air quality for the 3 weeks before the event, and then with all these road shutdowns in the city, they measured the air quality that day, and this is on ecowatch.com. They found that there was an 89% drop in air pollution that day. Yeah.
But it was also a Sunday.
One day. Right? It was a Sunday, right? So so there would have been less. Well, actually, the measurements they did in the earlier weeks was also on a Sunday. So they measured it the 3 Sundays before, and then this Sunday of the race.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for their comparison. So they had day-to-day comparison.
That's pretty impressive.
I mean, I'm sure the athletes were happy about the air quality.
Interesting. A joint inquiry from 4 parliamentary committees published in March called Air Pollution in the UK, which kills 40,000 people annually, a national health emergency.
Yeah, that's a great line from the story here.
It is.
If you think about how many people were running the race, running in it and watching it, there were probably at least 40,000 people at the event. And if all 40,000 people dropped dead, it would be a huge media story and a disaster and a tragedy, and there would be action taken. But the fact that 40,000 people die a year from air quality, it happens, onesie twosie here or there, and it doesn't get the attention that a big 40,000 people dropping dead all at once would, but it's still 40,000 people dying, but we don't treat it that way.
But no one says we're London strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is huge, and that's again, you can't cure everything, but you can do something to make things better, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whether it's electric buses or limiting traffic in urban areas certain times of the week,
Yep, it all adds up.
Right.
Well, if you care about people's lives, I understand that some people don't. I get that.
Like who?
Oh, that's right into our next story.
Tony.
No, I think Evans is next.
Oh,
right?
Evans, I'm sorry. Evans, excuse me. Evans,
I was trying to tease a segue there, but apparently I failed.
I got it though. Yeah.
So, some may recall that back in late March, when Trump brought on the new EPA director, whose name was eluding me briefly.
Pruitt?
Was it Pruitt? Yes. Scott Pruitt. Their brilliant plan was to roll back all of the environmental protections that Obama had instilled on the automotive industry, requiring them to meet new greenhouse gas and fuel economy standards. That this was a progressive chain, and I don't have those details directly in front of me now, but I think by 2025 or something, the average fleet fuel economy had to be like 25 miles per gallon or some such numbers. And so, of course, Pruitt saw how flawed that plan was, and immediately came in and determined that they were going to roll that back. And
did he see how flawed it was, or did somebody pay him to see how flawed that was?
Yes, all of the above.
Big oil bought him an island.
Yes. Good old California IA decided that they were not in agreement with Mr. Pruitt's plans, and actually took them to court. And our story talks about how the court agreed with California and said that Obama cannot roll back those federal standards.
Or Pruitt or Trump.
Well, Trump cannot, and Pruitt and Klan. So the federal court stops the Department of Transportation's attempt to delay efficiency penalties for automakers, was the title of this electric article, and certainly good news and a big middle finger, which maybe our previous story can help us out with, to Trump and his administration. So definitely very good news moving forward, and hopefully that will send a little shot across the bow to slow the hell down on some of these rollbacks.
And I didn't realize the penalties for missing the efficiency standards. So in the 1970s, it said it was $5 per tenth of a mile per gallon. And in 1997, they increased it to $5.50.
Oh, there.
Wow. And but if you adjust for inflation for 2016, it goes up to $14 per tenth of a mile per gallon.
Oof.
So it's starting to get, hefty, and that's supposed to incentivize them to actually produce the cars instead of paying the penalty, because they already did tests and they said you could achieve or exceed the guidelines put in place, and you could do it very inexpensively. But they're just not doing it.
But you have to want to.
Yeah. So there's some nice little
rules too.
So there's some nice little tidbits in here that it should be noted that Pruitt pays below market rent to live in an oil lobbyist's house, and illegally spent $43,000 of taxpayer money on a soundproof booth for his office to have secret conversations with his buddies from polluting industries.
Yeah.
And all of this despite 90% of Americans supporting the higher fuel efficiency standards.
Dipshit.
Nice.
Sorry.
In a not related story, but
that was the inner voice coming.
Yeah, the inner narrative escaping. Did anybody catch the Ford announcement today? No. Ford announced they're going to stop making cars.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm not falling for it.
Mustang, and they're going to make a Ford Focus. Everything else is going bye-bye.
What? No.
They're going to
make way more money on F-150s.
And
April 1st was a few weeks ago. What's going on?
They're going to keep their truck and their SUV line, but the car business is something they apparently are not interested in anymore.
Wow.
Other than the Mustang? No way.
No. I am so looking this up because I don't believe
Jim Hackett himself said that.
Yeah, there's several stories.
Ford dropping all but 2 cars from its North American dealerships.
Wow.
So this is
North Americans don't buy cars. They're buying it.
Ford to stop selling every car in North America but Mustang and Focus.
Wow.
And Ford certainly has the right to decide what business they want to be in. But it is interesting. I mean, I think the messages that
no more Crown Vic police interceptors.
Well, that died a couple of years ago, didn't it?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
No, now they're all going Tesla. Wow.
I just thought that was interesting.
That is wild.
And that's really Ford's commitment to making like environmentally reasonable vehicles has always been sort of
right. But I mean, but that's crazy. So no more Fusion. I mean, the Fusions were selling like anything.
I don't know. And they'd rather make trucks.
Yeah. Of course they
would. Yeah, so now they're going to make Mustangs and trucks. There's no way they're going to meet the fuel economy standards.
Seller.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's kind of a niche car, but I guess it's like a halo car for them.
What, the Mustang?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a halo car. I mean,
they don't sell a ton of them.
What's a halo car?
Something Ford doesn't make anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. A halo car, Prius, used to be what people would say was Toyota's halo car.
What does that mean?
It brings people, it gets them attention. It brings people into the dealership. Even if they don't sell that, it's what gets media attention and public interest.
Sure. For decades, Corvette has been that for Chevy.
Right.
Okay. You know?
Yeah.
Here's a whole bunch of Chevys, and hey, look at that Corvette. Wouldn't you like that? Right. No? Well, I'll sell you a Cobalt.
And they park the Corvette in the front of the showroom or on the street to get you to come in. You go, that's a cool Corvette. And they go, you can't afford that, but here's a Cobalt.
Right.
Yeah.
How about this Cruise LTE?
Yeah. Or the Sonic.
Yeah. Right. The Ford Fiesta was usually
no mosh on the Fiesta.
Yeah. The dealership I go to, that's what's sitting outside to draw people in.
How are they going to meet the fuel economy standards if the bulk of what they sell are trucks?
They're going to pay off the politicians.
Special guidelines? Do the trucks have different guidelines?
Oh,
I think they're looking at the signals this administration's sending, and they're going, "That's not going to be a problem for much longer."
Yeah.
So let's make some money while we can.
And then
I don't know.
Buy ZEV credits from somebody or whatever the federal equivalent is.
Maybe it's cheaper than developing new models.
Maybe.
But full on stopping. I mean, that's more than just a administrative change. I mean, that's huge. That's
well, they did.
They looked at the numbers though, and they're just not selling cars. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and like Patrick was saying, right now all I can see is North America. What are they doing in the rest of the world? Are they going to continue with car sales?
Right. Absolutely.
Wow.
It will be market specific. I mean, there's obviously countries where they sell a ton of cars and not many SUVs. Guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Tony, should we talk about your India scooter thing now? Since we're just like running down the air pollution theme this show.
Yeah. I don't know if it's about scooters, but sticking with our international news source, one being the Nikkei, what was it? The Asian news, the Nikkei Asian news. Yeah. So I found while I was perusing the Hindu this week.
Nice.
Which, tend to do from time to time. Not really, but if you use Flipboard, I'm telling you, if you use Flipboard, you never know where the news is going to come from. And so I stumbled upon this one, and it's from the Hindu in India. And the Indian Oil Corporation, the IOC, is gearing up to enter the battery vertical and willing to acquire technologies for that and customize them to Indian conditions. So this is an oil corporation, and they are now diversifying and getting into batteries and electrification, and they are anticipating when oil is no longer available, when the internal combustion vehicle, including scooters and cars, are no longer the main vehicle in motor transportation, and they are already seeing battery coming, and they're jumping right now on this. So I just wanted to, we had the Chinese with the buses. We have India now, an oil corporation diversifying into batteries and electrification. I'm just seeing what's happening in different places around the world. And some of the stuff I'm feeling really good because, we've been talking about this for 8 years now. And we're starting to see some of it coming to fruition.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, those two-stroke scooters are pretty nasty emissions-wise.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. What I remember a long time ago, it was an Earth Day or something, that someone said running a lawnmower and cutting your grass for one day has as much pollution as running your car for a year.
Yeah.
Because it's dirty, it doesn't burn clean, there's no muffler, there's no catalytic converter, it's just
except in California, where lawn equipment has to be CARB compliant.
Really?
Yeah, they make special lawnmowers for California, and you can't sell a 49 state lawnmower in California, which is cool. More states should adopt that.
Cool, because there's nothing worse than leaf blowers in my world. Honestly,
gas-powered leaf blowers.
Gas-powered leaf blowers are a scourge on our society.
You can buy
especially at 7 a.m.
Yeah,
just electric lawnmowers are not that much more. And they're a lot cheaper to run and a lot less maintenance. Just go get an electric lawnmower, everybody.
Yeah, now there's pretty cool lithium-powered garden equipment. Weed whackers, lawnmowers, they all use big rechargeable batteries. They're quiet, they're efficient. You don't need to drag a cord around. You don't need messy gas. I agree with Patrick. If you have a lawn, go buy electric tools.
So I don't own a lawn, but I've been looking at houses for a while, and I really have my heart set on a real mower. Call me crazy, but there's just something about pushing that real mower, the spinner mower.
The manual.
Yeah.
Human powered.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you have to walk it anyway, right? So I could just do away with the gas and the battery altogether and just use, it's a real REEL mower.
Yeah, when you said I want a real mower, I thought you were dissing the battery electric. So you're like,
Yeah.
if it doesn't have gas, it's not real.
Yeah.
No,
It's about to smack you over the internet here.
That's definitely the greenest kind of mower because it's human powered.
And it's quiet, and it actually cuts the grass better. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to a push mower
I
like
bought
that.
one of those with my first house, and we used it for several years until one spring I let it go a little too long, and then it was jamming. And so you have to you can't just let it go crazy. If you have one of those, you have to do it frequently.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. Well, next up, there was a story in Automotive News. This was almost 2 weeks old now, but I did want to mention it. That the NTSB was investigating the Tesla Model X crash up in the Bay Area. And through the NTSB is not a huge organization. It's a small agency, and they usually work with whether it's a car company or an airplane company or an airline or whatever, work with them to investigate issues. And the NTSB and Tesla were working together on this Model X crash. And on the 12th of this month, the NTSB said, you guys are out of here. We're kicking you off the investigation.
Boom, baby.
And a lot of it came down to the fact that Tesla was disclosing information, which is, while not a legal violation, is a violation of the way NTSB asks their partners in these investigations not to reveal things until the investigation is complete. And I think most of us will probably go, that's not an unreasonable way to do it. I keep in mind, the NTSB is an amazing little agency. This isn't whatever regulatory agency you hate. These are the people that put planes back together after they've exploded, at 20,000 feet. These people work really hard to get answers for survivors and for industries that need this information desperately. So I just,
right. Evan, do you want it or do you want me to take it?
Go for it, man.
God, you guys are going to gang up on me? I'm sick.
One of us has to be the Tesla defender here.
Okay, go for it.
Tesla was releasing information that they found out from their vehicle. It's not like they were releasing NTSB's information. And there's a ton of press about this. I mean, we've talked about the event on our show and all the media attention it's getting.
Yes.
The NTSB wanted them to wait at least a year before even releasing anything they found. That's ridiculous. They're a public company. They have to maintain their public image. They have to put the truth out there as they know it, as they learn things. They have to inform the people that are using these vehicles if there was something that was seriously wrong with them. So to ask Tesla to just shut their mouth for a year is ridiculous. There's no way any company that is responsive as Tesla is to issues is ever going to just sit back and wait.
But it's an ongoing investigation.
Right. And so Tesla found out some facts about it. They released those facts to the public. It's not like they were releasing government secrets. It's not like they were releasing something as that's completely false or fake. These were facts they found out during their investigation, and they released them as a transparent company. I see no problem with that at all.
They signed an agreement that said they wouldn't release information about the crash. You might not see any problem with the information they released, but they signed an agreement that said they wouldn't.
And I get that Tesla's a public company and that these things affect them as a business and all of that, but these are the rules that everybody lives by, whether you're Boeing or American Airlines or Ford or Tesla.
Well, part of the agreement was that NTSB wasn't going to release information either. And then instead, they're tweeting that they're doing this investigation on Tesla. So they were also out there releasing information in this event.
That's not information. They always say, NTSB always says we're investigating. That's what they do. They say we're investigating the accident. We're investigating the crash. We're investigating the plane crash or the whatever.
All right. Well, yeah.
So I've got some mixed feelings on it because I think you guys make some good points. At the same time, this is the kind of thing that spun out of control with, NTSB just with their, lips shut tight, isn't saying anything, could really trash the entire company. And I think their ability to make factual things public first is part of the history of what Tesla's done all along. All these, uncommanded acceleration things, they have the ability to come out immediately and debunk that stuff before it spirals out of control and people start getting crazy that the cars are unsafe. So yeah, they may have had a side agreement. I maybe they shouldn't have signed it. I don't know. Did they have much choice in signing it?
It's a participation with the NTSB is voluntary.
Right. So if they're giving NTSB the information they found, and I'm sure they are, I don't see why that restricts what they should do with it.
Because that's the agreement. That's what everybody agrees to. Until the investigation is complete, no one talks about findings, because and I guess the point is,
it's kind of like polluting the jury or whatever they say in a court case.
I mean, the idea is that you have the context of all the information, and then you make your judgments based on the analysis of that. I'm not even I get your point, Patrick. I don't even think you're totally off. I do think there's a little bit of arrogance in Tesla's thing that, this involves somebody dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they should have stuck with what, again, little tiny companies like Boeing and United Airlines and whoever else put up with. UPS got kicked off one of these because they did the same thing a few years ago.
Right. So yeah, if absolutely that these companies should be working with the NTSB, but I don't know that means if they released false information, that's a crime and they should be punished for that. If they're releasing information that they found out on their own that they think is important for public safety or for their customers' safety, they should absolutely release it.
Now, come on. Now you're pushing it too far, because what we're talking about here is releasing information that's going to hopefully buoy the stock. It has nothing to do with public safety.
The NTSB. I don't think that crash had anything to do with the stock one way or the other.
I wouldn't even necessarily argue, but why did Tesla, what public safety information did they release?
If they released it, that this wasn't some fundamental flaw that causes the vehicle to lose control or accelerate uncontrollably. They found out that it had alerted, the driver didn't respond to it, and it hit this, and then that was a fatal crash.
Mm-hmm. So Tesla could have, in the interest of public safety, released a statement that said, just as a reminder for Tesla owners who are using the autopilot feature, if the car asks you to put your hands on the wheel, put your hands on the wheel. They didn't have to say, our findings from the crash indicated that the driver had 6 seconds where his hands were not on the wheel. That is the findings of the investigation. That's covered by the agreement. But just making a general statement to remind people how to use autopilot is most likely not in violation of the agreement. They violated the agreement.
All right.
We can argue the agreement's not fair, but
yeah, because they obviously do want to work with them, and if that's what they have to sign to work with them, there's no way. If Tesla said we don't want to sign that agreement because it binds our hands, we would have seen all kinds of Tesla refuses to work with NTSB in crash investigation. Yeah. That would be horrible. Of course, you want to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
How many EULAs do you read?
Right.
So now it's going to be updated. The NTSB contract is going to be updated to say, put the Twitter down.
Exactly. Tony.
Hey, I want to back that story for just a second. Eric in the chat room is wondering where the 1 year figure came from before NTSB would release information. He says he knows for a fact that the aerospace investigations, that information is often released much faster.
I will see if I can find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Uh-oh. Oh, I reached my limit. Okay. Tony,
yes.
I think you have a story about the Bolt.
I do. Wait, are you sure?
Oh, maybe that's Mark. I'm sorry.
Which one is this? Is it the
We
Bolt
got
battery?
reassigned to Tony because Mark's not with us tonight.
Oh,
Oh,
excuse
right.
me.
Wait, where is it?
Was that Mark? Oh, and Mark's not with us because he had some computer problems this week. So, Mashable had reported this week that I'll just read the headline. Some Chevy Bolt batteries stop working. Everyone else needs software patch. Apparently GM isn't issuing a recall, but there are some Bolt owners that were being notified about a battery problem that's affecting some of the cars, but it's not all of them. And apparently it can be fixed by flashing the software in the car. Or what's the other company that now does OTA updates? Chevrolet.
Dun, dun, dun.
Really?
Yeah.
Chevrolet.
Don't have to go to the dealer?
Yeah. Part of OnStar?
Yes, part of OnStar.
So I thought that was a really interesting and neat thing that the via OnStar, the car can evaluate its own battery pack and notify the driver that, hey, you need to take your car to the dealer because you're affected by this. I thought that was just really pretty neat.
But it also says that they don't do the software patch, the car can lose propulsion.
It can.
Yes, it can.
Good.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what the patch is for. So.
Right. And it says a small percent, so.
Right. And I mean, I think I'm not taking it for Chevy here, but I think these things are going to happen. The question is how car companies deal with it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That kind of stuff happens to gas cars. I mean, there's recalls every week about gas cars.
So, do I hear someone talking in the back?
Sorry, I was looking at the story and some audio.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I hate that.
Yeah. I hate that. I just, number one, I thought the OTA thing was cool. And yeah, I mean, again, Chevy apparently handled this really well. I follow a few Chevy Bolt groups, and I saw lots of people talking about the update, but nobody really freaking out. You know what I mean? Or losing their mind. Hey, I'm going to go.
Yeah, there's no headlines like unintended deceleration with the Chevy.
Yeah.
So.
And Chevy refuses to work with NTSB.
All right.
Yeah.
Patrick, notice that wasn't from me. Okay. It wasn't from me.
I've got the answer to that question.
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay, so this is on the Drive. A Tesla spokesperson told the Drive, quote, "We believe in transparency, so an agreement that prevents public release of information for over a year is unacceptable. Even though we won't be a formal party, we will continue to provide technical assistance to the NTSB." So I think you're right that information is often released earlier. It's probably worded in such a way that it has to be held for until the investigation is done, or a year, whichever's shorter. And so the agreement probably just specifies a year or until the investigation is complete.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Patrick. And thank you, Eric, from the chat. Was it Eric in the chat room?
Yeah, Eric had mentioned the aerospace.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Evan. Anybody got any one more things this week? Am I forgetting something, Tony?
There's so there was an article in Automotive News also this week about the headline, which I thought was grabbing your attention. Self-driving cars hitting red lights. And apparently not literally, but it's an interesting read, and for me personally, because some of the politicians quoted are from Indiana. I'm from Indiana. But what's interesting here is these lawmakers are being pressured to pass laws and make regulations about autonomous vehicles. Who's allowed on the road? How much testing is required? What are the liabilities? And these lawmakers are coming forward and saying, we don't fully even understand the technology, much less the ramifications. And what was almost unfortunate is Indiana Senator Michael Crider, who oversaw the state's attempt to introduce autonomous regulation. He says, "It was not an issue that I knew a whole lot about, and I was just bombarded by all sides. I'm sick of the whole topic." That's hard.
That's the guy you want in charge of it. Yes. I'm sick of this whole damn thing.
You might just go die for all I care. But the crazy thing is, I mean, what goes on is that, it's mentioned later that he says the manufacturers and the lobbyists were trying to push through these regulations and trying to do it in a way that the law, the politicians didn't fully understand it. So they were trying to take an opportunity to run rickshaw over them and get their interests covered and just say, no, just put a rubber stamp on this. You'll be good.
Yep. It's just like they did with Tesla, trying to prevent them from being able to sell without a dealer license in Missouri and a lot of other states. They just throw a little money their way, put a bill in front of them, and just get the sign up. Don't worry about the implications.
Yeah. You don't want to see how laws are made. There's a lot of ugly sausage making there.
Yeah. Which in some cases excuses some of it, but let's be clear that we've quickly progressed past the political log rolling isn't pretty to watch to lobbyists are writing bills and legislators are voting on them without even reading the text.
Yeah, these are people that think the internet's a series of tubes. So what do they know?
Exactly. That's all I got this week. Thank you, Tony, for picking up the one that I had skipped.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Let's do some shout-outs and go home because, frankly, I'm about to run out of oxygen. Evan, just because you're easy.
That's what they all say.
Yeah, I know.
No, I've got it. If anybody's looking for a referral code, I am happy to provide one for you. And I would be glad to talk to you about any questions you have about buying a Tesla. But other than that, I'm shouted out.
That's the most half-assed use my referral code plug I've ever heard.
You got to post it on the screen in big letters.
We do this every week. Look, I'd rather convince somebody to buy a car than get their referral.
There you go. Patrick.
If anybody's looking for a referral code, use Evans.
Teamwork.
I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and I occasionally write at carswithcords.net.
And both sites you should definitely visit and follow them on Twitter and on Facebook because Patrick does a good job with them, as he does with our site. Mr. Guzik.
Well, I have a big announcement today.
Is it the royal baby?
Yes, I gave birth to the royal baby.
That would be a big announcement.
Or I was the father of the royal baby. No,
wow.
No, my big announcement is for the last 8 or 9 years, we've been fixing and repairing hybrid cars. And recently we became licensed by the state of Colorado as a used car dealer, which means we will be selling hybrids and buying hybrids. So if a customer comes in with a tired hybrid and doesn't want to fix it, we'll buy it, we'll make it good again, and then we'll resell it on to someone looking for a quality used car. So we're just sort of launching that side of the business, but stay tuned for more information in the coming weeks.
Will you be making any cheesy commercials?
Like I'll stand on my head to make you a deal.
Yeah. Please.
Crazy Paul's hybrid.
Crazy Paul's.
That's it. I'll eat a bug to sell you a hybrid.
And EVs. We will certainly be getting a few used Leafs in time and other used electric cars.
Nice.
And helping people upgrade to the cool technology.
So if we buy a car from you, do we get a used bag of weed?
Yeah, every car comes with a bag of weed in the trunk. No, I didn't say
that. You can get one of those cardboard
but
there's
like 75 dispensaries within 10 miles of here, so you can stop on your way home and pick something up. As long as you're 21.
So you're not fighting with your friends next door, are you? No.
I guess in some ways we will compete, but I already have an installed customer base. So we have people coming in every week. Hey, my spouse needs a car. My kid needs a car. Hey, my coworker, do you know any good cars out there? And one thing as a repair shop we can do is provide a warranty where, Crazy Eddie's used card lot is like, well, once you drive it off the lot, you're on your own, buddy.
It's a 20/20 guarantee. That's 20 feet or 20 seconds, whichever comes first.
Exactly.
I'll say something really good about Paul Guzik. One of the cool things about Paul is that he has always been someone who hates to see an old vehicle get scrapped. And I can think of numerous cases where you bought or rescued or whatever old cars that didn't need to be scrapped and, got new owners for them or use it as your loaner car.
Yeah, we have a loaner pool of a lot of 200,000-300,000 mile old Priuses. And people love the fact they drop their car off for service. They can take a car and go to work. And if it gets scratched or dinged, it's not a big deal because they're kind of old.
But that's cool because the junk, we don't need more stuff in junkyards too. Especially those of us who want to drive a little more responsibly. So cheers to you, dude. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, if it was some gas belching diesel, I'd say let's put it in the scrap heap.
Yes, I mean,
No, that's not a belch. That's
yeah. Let's not characterize that anymore.
Well, the funny thing is, we occasionally will get a customer that needs a catalytic converter because the car is detecting a fault, and they're very concerned, like, oh, I've got to fix this. I don't want my car to pollute. And I have to say, look, Mr. Customer, your car with a bad catalytic converter is still cleaner than 99% of the cars on the road because it's a hybrid.
Right.
But it's cool that they still want to fix it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that, again, these cars just don't get thrown away. And I realize that's bad for the economy or something, but I don't think so because you're employing people and you're doing business. So, that's all part of it too. And yeah, without getting too preachy, it's cool that you're providing vehicles for people who don't necessarily have a lot of money.
Yeah, so if anyone's in Colorado and needs to buy or sell a used hybrid or EV, give us a call. And we've got people saying, hey, I need a Prius V or a Highlander hybrid. Can you locate one for us? So we'll be offering that service as well.
Wow.
Cool. Will you deliver them to Nixa, Missouri?
I don't know if they're a case of that Fusco beer.
Tit for tat.
You up.
There you
He
go.
happens to know the owner.
Yeah.
That's the owner of the brewery.
And the brewmaster.
Suddenly, the Fusco children driving problem is solved for pennies on the dollar.
That's right. Got a couple of Gen 1 Priuses we'll give you a good deal on.
Oh, that's so
Gen 1. Wow.
I know. That's great. Tony Schaefer.
Hey, as usual, I want to give a shout out to the Chicago Cubs. But for those of you not concerned about baseball, I just want you to know that the Maple Leafs are going to come back and beat the Bruins tonight. I'm just waiting for that to happen. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I know I'm going to miss people, but of course, there's Lee and Eric and Robert and JT. And Philip, of course, everyone. Shauna, who is now my new favorite chat person. Also, I want to remind everybody that if you use Flipboard as a news aggregator, search out the What Drives Us magazine. And a lot of the articles that we talk about on the show get flipped into the magazine. You'll get to see what we're reading and what we find interesting. And if you're just interested in the entire green transportation sector, it's pretty much, that's the entire magazine right there.
Hey, and Tony reminded me with the chat room comments, we did have a suggestion for tonight's show title.
Oh, a title?
Perverting the Course of Justice.
Yes, that's Lee. Yeah, that's it.
How about Scott Pruitt perverts the course of justice?
I love that.
Yes. Oh,
Cheers,
I also
whoever thought that up.
Yeah, that was Lee. But if I want to make sure everyone goes to the YouTube channel and watches Russell's car reviews. If you haven't done that yet, make sure to go out and watch his car reviews. And one of the reasons I bring that up is starting in May, when hopefully it's going to be warm in the Chicagoland area, I'm going to start getting cars for myself. You'll start seeing car reviews from me up there as well. So
we're branching out. We're going everywhere.
Yes.
Tony, I do. You know what? Since Tony brought that up, Tony forces me to bring that up. I just posted today a really wonderful interview with Alan Schneider, who's a senior principal designer at Calty. He is the team leader for the Avalon, the 2019 Avalon interior, and it was, as somebody who's not a car designer but who's an artist, and it was a fascinating interview. Just when you actually talk to how deep they dive down. I mean, like, and I said this during the interview, as you know, it's always been like, okay, so you get this car with either leather, fabric, or vinyl or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And not at Toyota. It's a whole other thing. I mean, each trim is different for specific reasons, depending on the materials they're working with. It's amazing how much thought goes into the process. So do watch, if you see it at facebook.com/whatdrivesus, the Alan Schneider interview. It should be at the top.
Yeah, great.
Tony, is that it for you, my friend?
Yeah, that's it. Bring us home.
All right. As always, I want to thank Michael Mannering for our amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com, facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Visit us there. Leave questions, all of that. Tony mentioned the Flipboard at What Drives Us on Twitter. Of course, we're now Instagram friendly because we're young and cutting edge.
Maybe cutting edge.
That just sounded like bullshit, didn't it?
Because it was.
It was, yeah. A steaming pile of Russell's bullshit. It was at What Drives Us Show on Instagram. What will you see there? You'll see the cars that I'm driving that week for review. This week, the behemoth that is the 2018 Toyota Land Cruiser. I have never...
That's the hybrid version?
No. I have never piloted a vehicle as large as this in my... that wasn't a commercial truck.
Wow.
This thing is ginormous. And wait for it, there's a refrigerator in the center console.
Whoa.
For your icy cold beverage.
That's all I'm saying is, you know, you're out there four-wheeling... You're living the life, okay?
Yep.
So,
and it's like, what, 12 mpg?
I'll tell you right now, I've just driven it a few miles around town. I'm at 14.8.
Okay.
And, Tony, am I the hypermiler on the panel?
No.
Oh, hell no. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think they have a hybrid version.
No.
Yeah, it's all gas. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody in the chat room. Thanks to everybody on the panel for showing up and having a good show. Even Patrick, who argued with me about Tesla. No, seriously, that's good. And thanks to all of you for watching. Tune in next week and find out, he says with his voice cracking like a 12-year-old boy, what drives us?
Pull forward. You want fries with that?
Dun, dun, dun. Uh-oh. It's not focusing. There we go.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Absolutely. See you next week, everybody.